The girl was standing outside the restaurant when I first saw her. She couldn't have been more than 25. Her clothes were dirty, her hair was tangled from the wind, and she was holding a piece of cardboard against her chest, trying to protect herself from the cold November rain. I had just finished dinner. There was still half a sandwich sitting in the paper bag beside me. I was about to throw it away. Then she spoke. "Excuse me, sir." I stopped. She looked at the bag in my hand. "If you're not going to eat that, could I have it?" I don't know why, but something about her voice made me look at her twice. There was something familiar about her, something I couldn't explain. I handed her the food. "Here." She took it carefully. "Thank you." She was about to walk away when I asked, "Are you hungry?" She looked embarrassed, then she nodded. I went back inside the restaurant. I bought her a hot meal. When I returned, she was sitting beneath the awning. She stared at the plate for several seconds before eating. I sat across from her, not because I was trying to be kind. At least, that's what I told myself. I sat there because I couldn't stop looking at her face. There was something about her eyes, something about the way she held her fork, something that made an old memory rise from somewhere deep inside me, a memory I had spent 15 years trying to bury. I had a daughter once. Her name was Emily, and 15 years earlier, Emily disappeared. My name is Robert Hayes. I'm 67 years old, and for 15 years I had lived with the belief that my daughter was dead. There was no body, no funeral, no final goodbye, just an empty bedroom and 1,000 unanswered questions. Emily was 17 when she disappeared. 17. Old enough to think she knew everything, young enough to believe she had nothing left to lose. The night she disappeared, we had an argument. I still remember it. It was a Thursday. I had come home late from work. Emily was sitting at the kitchen table. She was angry. I was tired. And sometimes, when two people are hurting, being tired is all it takes to say something you can never take back. "You don't trust me," she said. "I trust you." "No, you don't." "Emily, you're 17. "I'm almost 18. "That doesn't make you an adult." She stood up. "You never listen to me." I remember putting my keys on the table. "Because every time I try to talk to you, you turn it into an argument." She looked at me. "Maybe because you don't want to hear the truth." "What truth?" She didn't answer. I wish I could remember what happened next. I wish I could go back and change it. But memory is cruel. It doesn't always preserve the things we need. It preserves the things that hurt. I remember Emily running upstairs. I remember a door slamming. I remember my wife Linda telling me to go talk to her. And I remember saying, "Let her cool down." Those were the last words I ever spoke to my daughter. The next morning, Emily was gone. At first, I thought she had gone to a friend's house. Then I found the note. It was only 3 lines. "Don't look for me. I'm sorry. I just need to get away." We called the police. We called her friends. We searched everywhere, for months, then years. But Emily never came home. My wife blamed herself. I blamed myself. Eventually, Linda stopped talking about her, not because she had forgotten, because she couldn't survive talking about her anymore. 6 years after Emily disappeared, Linda died. Cancer. And when she was gone, I was completely alone. My wife, my daughter, my family, all gone. I stopped expecting good things from life. I worked, I came home, I ate alone, and I tried not to remember. Until that rainy November evening, when a homeless girl asked me for my leftovers. Her name was Sarah. At least, that's what she told me. She was 25. She said she had been living on the streets for almost 2 years. I didn't ask why, not at first. There are some questions you don't ask a stranger, especially when they are already carrying more than you can see. I bought her another meal. Then I bought her a cup of coffee. We sat beneath the restaurant awning while the rain fell around us. She told me she had come to the city looking for work. She had found some, lost some, and eventually lost her apartment. She had no family nearby, no one to call, no place to go. "I've been sleeping wherever I can," she said. I looked at her. "Where's your family?" She stared at her coffee. I don't have one. Everyone has someone. She smiled sadly. Not everyone. Something about the way she said it made my chest tighten. Your parents? She went silent. Then she said, I don't know where they are. I looked at her. What do you mean? She rubbed her hands together. I was 17 when I left home. My heart stopped. I don't know if she noticed. I couldn't breathe. 17. The same age. I stared at her face. How long ago? She looked at me. 15 years. The restaurant suddenly felt very quiet. I heard the rain. I heard cars passing. But everything else disappeared. What's your real name? I asked. She frowned. Sarah? Your full name. She hesitated. Why? I don't know. I couldn't explain it. I didn't want to frighten her, but my hands were shaking. She finally said, Sarah Morgan. Morgan. Not Hayes, not Emily. But then again, I had never known what name Emily had been using. I looked at her. Do you have any scars? She immediately pulled away. Why? I'm sorry. I stood up. I shouldn't have asked. She looked at me suspiciously. Are you okay? I nodded, but I wasn't. Because I remembered something. Emily had a small birthmark just below her left ear, a tiny crescent-shaped mark. I had kissed it 1,000 times when she was a child. It was the first thing I noticed when she was born. I looked at Sarah. Can I ask you one more question? She didn't answer. I pointed gently toward her neck. What happened there? Her face changed. She reached up and touched the place beneath her ear. Nothing. I stared at her. Please. She pulled her hair aside. And there it was, the crescent. My knees almost gave out. I sat down. Sarah looked confused. Sir? I couldn't speak. 15 years. 15 years of believing my daughter was dead. And suddenly, a young woman was sitting in front of me with the same birthmark, the same eyes, the same habit of rubbing her thumb against the side of her coffee cup when she was nervous. I had seen that habit before, 1,000 times. What's your birthday? I whispered. She looked at me. Why? Please. She told me. I knew the date. I knew it before she finished speaking. It was Emily's birthday. My daughter's birthday. I stood up so quickly that my chair moved backward. Sarah looked frightened. What's wrong? I couldn't answer. I pulled out my wallet. Inside was a photograph. I had carried it for 15 years. A picture of Emily at 17. The last photograph I ever had of her. I put it on the table. Sarah looked at it. Then she looked at me. Her face went pale. Where did you get that? I could barely speak. That's my daughter. Sarah stared at the photograph. Then she whispered, That's me. I don't remember what happened after that. I remember the rain. I remember Sarah crying. I remember myself saying, Emily? She shook her head. That's not my name. It was. She stared at me. No. Your name was Emily Hayes. She stood up. How do you know that? Because I'm your father. The words came out before I was ready. She stepped backward. No. I'm your father. No. Her voice became louder. You have the wrong person. I don't. You don't know me. I've been looking for you for 15 years. She froze. I took a step toward her. Emily. She covered her ears. Stop calling me that. I stopped. She was crying. Not the kind of crying people do when they are sad. The kind that comes from somewhere much deeper. I don't remember you, she whispered. Those words broke something inside me. Because for 15 years I had imagined finding my daughter. I had imagined hugging her. I had imagined her running toward me. I had imagined everything. But I had never imagined her looking at me like I was a stranger. And then she said something that changed everything. I don't remember my family. I stared at her. What? She wiped her tears. After I left home, I got into a car. I said nothing. There was an accident. My heart sank. I woke up in a hospital. She looked at me. They told me I had a head injury. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know my name. Emily, stop. She shook her head. They said I was confused. I sat down. She continued. I had no identification. No family came looking for me? Because we did. She stared at me. What? We searched for you. I don't remember. We put your picture everywhere. I don't remember. I went to the police every week. She started crying again. I don't remember. And then I understood. My daughter hadn't abandoned me. She hadn't chosen another family. She hadn't died. She had simply forgotten who she was. I reached for her hand. She let me hold it. For the first time in 15 years, I held my daughter's hand. But she still didn't know me. The next morning, I took Sarah to the hospital. We had tests done, DNA testing. I had spent 15 years wondering if my daughter was alive. Now I was terrified of the answer. 3 days later, the doctor called. Mr. Hayes? Yes? Your test results are back. I couldn't speak. Your relationship with Sarah Morgan is consistent with a biological father and daughter. I closed my eyes. My daughter was alive. Emily was alive. I sat in my car afterward, and I cried. Not because I was sad, because for 15 years I had been grieving someone who had been walking around somewhere in the world, and now she was sitting in a hospital room, alive, my daughter. But finding Emily was only the beginning. The hardest part came afterward, because she still didn't remember me. She didn't remember her mother. She didn't remember our house. She didn't remember her childhood. She didn't remember the dog we had when she was 10. She didn't remember the birthday parties. She didn't remember the Christmas mornings. She didn't remember the night she left. To her, I was a stranger who claimed to be her father. So I made a decision. I would not force her to become Emily again, not overnight, not because I wanted my daughter back. I would let her decide who she wanted to be. I rented her an apartment, I bought her new clothes, I helped her find a doctor, and I visited her every Sunday. At first, we barely talked. Then, slowly, things changed. I brought photographs. She asked questions. Was I really this annoying? I laughed. Much worse. She smiled. Was Mom nice? Your mother was the kindest person I ever knew. Did she miss me? I looked at her. Every single day. She looked down. I'm sorry. You didn't leave us. But I left. You were 17. She was quiet. Then she asked, why did I leave? I didn't answer immediately, because I knew the truth, and I didn't know if I was ready to tell her. The night before she disappeared, I had told her that she could leave if she hated living with us so much. I had been angry. I had been tired. I had been wrong. But what if that was why she left? What if my words had caused everything? I finally told her. She listened quietly. When I finished, she said, I don't remember saying goodbye. You didn't. She looked at me. Then maybe I was planning to come back. That sentence destroyed me, because I had spent 15 years believing my daughter had chosen to abandon us. But maybe she hadn't. Maybe she had simply intended to leave for a night. Maybe she had planned to come home. Maybe she had never meant for that night to become 15 years. Months passed. Emily started remembering small things, the smell of my coffee, the sound of our old front door, a song her mother used to play, the way I used to whistle while fixing things around the house. One day she came to my home. She stood in the doorway. She looked around. Then she started crying. What is it? She pointed toward the hallway. I remember this. I couldn't move. She walked slowly down the hallway. She stopped in front of a closed door, her old bedroom. I opened it. Everything was still there. I had never changed it, not really. Her old books, her photographs, a stuffed animal, the blue curtains she had chosen when she was 12. Emily walked inside. She picked up a small wooden jewelry box. Her hands started shaking. She opened it. Inside was a silver necklace. She touched it. Then she whispered, "Mom gave me this?" I nodded. Yes. She closed her eyes. And suddenly, she remembered. Not everything, just one moment. Her mother sitting on the edge of her bed. Her mother putting the necklace around her neck. Her mother saying, "Whatever happens, you'll always have a home." Emily collapsed onto the bed, and I sat beside her. She cried into my shoulder. And for the first time in 15 years, I held my daughter like a father again. A year has passed since I found her. Emily doesn't remember everything. Maybe she never will. But she's building a life. Her life. Not the life she had before. Something new. Something that belongs to her. She has an apartment now. A job at a local bookstore. Sometimes I joke that she inherited that from her mother. She tells me I make terrible jokes. She's probably right. But she comes over every Sunday. We have dinner. We talk. Sometimes we sit quietly. And sometimes she asks me about the years she lost. I tell her everything I can remember. I tell her about her mother. I tell her about childhood. I tell her about the night she disappeared. And I tell her something I should have told her 15 years ago. I'm sorry. She always says, "You were human, Dad." But I don't think she understands what those words mean to me, because I spent 15 years believing that my daughter had abandoned me. The truth was much harder. She hadn't abandoned me. Life had taken her away. And all those years, while I was grieving her, she was somewhere in the world, trying to survive without knowing who she was. Sometimes I think about that rainy November night. If I had thrown that sandwich away, if I had walked past her, if I had decided she wasn't my problem, I would still believe my daughter was dead. That's the thought that keeps me awake sometimes, not the 15 years I lost. The fact that I almost lost the rest of my life, too. Because sometimes the people we are looking for are closer than we think. Sometimes they don't need us to recognize them. Sometimes they just need us to stop, to look, to listen, to ask one more question. And sometimes a stranger sitting in the rain with nothing but a cardboard sign can turn out to be the person you've been waiting 15 years to find. My daughter once asked me why I gave her my leftovers that night. I told her the truth. I don't know. She laughed. That's not a very good answer. So I thought about it. And then I told her, maybe your mother was watching over both of us. Emily smiled. Then she leaned her head against my shoulder. And for the first time in 15 years, I didn't feel like I was looking for my daughter anymore. She was home. And this time, I wasn't going to let her go. If there's one thing my life has taught me, it's this. Never assume you know someone's story just by looking at them. The person sitting alone on the sidewalk may have once had a family. The person asking for food may have once had a home. And the person you think you've lost forever may still be waiting somewhere for someone to recognize them. I spent 15 years believing I had lost my daughter, but in the end, I learned something even more important. Sometimes finding someone isn't about recognizing their face, it's about recognizing their heart. And that night, in the rain, I recognized mine, because she was my daughter. She always had been. She just needed me to find her again.